Word of mouth, we had people traveling from all over the world to come just for the workshop. Many people told me that they were in Ritz-Carlton just to do the workshop. So that, when you hear such thing, and not one time, many times, I stay humble because that's a small shop. But I really have this feeling today where I know that I'm at service. I know that what I do in the small way I do it matters, and it is what I am meant to do.
It starts with just taking that leap.
Man, you have to work hard. You have to be incredibly smart.
Choose something that even if it fails, you are going to be proud of it.
Doesn't matter how badly you got beaten in battle.
Be kind, be kind, be kind.
Become a better person, a better leader, the better business.
Go with your gut. I'm Samuel Donner, and this is Finding Founders. We'll get back to the podcast right after this break. Unsexy, hosted by Elaine Zelby, is brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network. From scrap metal to timber to estate planning to freight pooling, Unsexy is a meandering exploration of just how sexy overlooked industries can be. One of the recent episodes was about campsite booking and outdoor travel with Brian Nolan, co-founder and CEO of Book Outdoors. So if that sounds interesting, listen to Unsexy wherever you get your podcasts. And now, back to the podcast. The French-born Nora Gasparini has dedicated her life to the craft of perfumery and has found her calling in scent. But it wasn't an easy road to get there. Before establishing her laboratory, Nora was struggling to find her independence and see the value in herself. She was often stuck at home with her mom while her dad and brother went out, explored, and handled the family business. But Nora wouldn't be on the sidelines for long. After igniting her flame in boarding school, tapping into her creative side in LA, and learning what a perfumer even was in Paris, Nora was filled with a love for meeting new people and sharing new scents. Now settled in Bali, her company, Parfums Créations, has introduced travelers and locals alike to the art of fragrance, and in turn, the memories that smell can hold. But before all this, Nora was on a different island, surrounded by the smells of a bakery. I actually want to take it back to the island you mentioned where you grew up, Martinique. Can you tell me some of your earliest memories growing up there?
I grew up in a patisserie, where patisserie is a bakery. My father owned bakeries when I was younger, and we used to live upstairs of the bakery.
So the smells are wafting up.
The smell of flour, smell of fresh bakeries. Definitely that would have been my first childhood memory.
Wow. Did you work in the bakery?
I would lie to say yes. But I spent a lot of time talking with the workers there, the sellers, and I was the chatty child. I was very curious.
Did your like dad or mom like encourage that curiosity? Did they try to, I guess, include you into the business, or was that something that was more for not you?
I think that it was pretty much, my father is the same. Very curious man and a real entrepreneur, always doing some things, always on a new project. And I think that I was pretty impressed by it when I was younger. And I think that that's what drove me to be like him.
Did you feel like he wanted you to learn how to do the family business? Like, did he teach you and your brother equally?
Oh, absolutely not.
Really?
Absolutely not. I grew up in Martinique, which is not anymore, but back then was really much patriarchal. So basically, the first word that he said when I came out of the womb of my mom was shit, because he wanted to have a boy. And that's true. So much that the doctor has asked him to leave the home. We had a talk about it. I mentioned to him how much anger that I had.
What was it like growing up? Like when you were a kid, like what did you feel? Like what were some of the experiences that elicited that anger?
Girls needs to stay with the mom, and boys needs to stay with the father. And he was going around with my brother, and I was staying home with my mom. And I was sad at the beginning. I was sad about it, but the more I grew up, the more I got mad.
You didn't feel like very included in the goings on of your dad, but you didn't necessarily say anything. Did that anger bubble up in any ways?
Yeah, of course. I would feel unvalued, unworthy, and it started to be like I rejected my mother. Anything related to my mother, I rejected it because I didn't want to be like her. And she's a absolutely beautiful woman, and like I learned so much now from her. But at the time, I didn't see her value. That was so clear to me. I wanted to start a new life, and I was 16 years old, and I just asked. Usually, at that time, you would send child like with bad behavior, you would send them to boarding school. But I wanted to go to boarding school, actually. And I asked my dad, and he was, I started to get his attention because I was going out, partying a lot.
You were partying?
Yeah, I was partying a lot. Eventually, that was a way to attract also the attention of my father. And the day I attracted the attention of my father, he came with his car and asked me like he was very mad, and he said, "You have to get inside the car." And that's the day I decided that I needed to go to boarding school. And in the very early in the morning, I went to him and I asked him, "Yeah, I want to go to boarding school." And right away he said yes.
Wow. How did that make you feel?
I was really happy, because that's something that I wanted. And I didn't sleep that night. I really wanted, I was, of course, I had a big fear of the unknown, but at the same time, I wanted to go to boarding school. And I went back to my dad and I say, "This is where I want to go." And I didn't even look at the paper. So he took the paper, called the school, and 1 month after, I was enrolled.
In the boarding school?
I was in the boarding
randomly
school.
Pointed to one. What was it like? Did you randomly choose the right one?
Eventually, I chose the right one because my future husband went to the same school.
Really?
Yes, but I didn't met him there.
Yeah.
I met him, and we realized that we went to the same school.
So what was that school like?
It was, as you could imagine, in a French castle, and the name was EIE, EIE, and it doesn't exist anymore. But at the time, with a big lake, beautiful castle, and I'm
imagining Harry Potter right now.
Pretty much like this. Pretty much like this.
Did you get involved in anything at boarding school? Did you realize that you liked certain subjects? Was there anything that you realized about yourself as you went through school?
I realized that I could be liked for myself. I had a big brother when I grew up, and pretty much I was so happy to have him because he was very popular. So I was always the sister of my brother, and I liked it. But now I was likable for myself, and that was a huge discovery.
So as you got towards the end of boarding school, what are you thinking that you want to do next? Like how are your interests developing?
I wasn't, I didn't have a passion at the time. I was passionate about people, and I was very curious. So anytime that I would have the experience, the opportunity to learn about people, I would take it. For example, at the end, when my boarding school finished, I went to Egypt for 1 month, And I spent a lot of time there because of a boyfriend that I had at the time.
Classic.
And that I was allowed to go by myself,
Wow.
to a different country and with a boyfriend. That was just amazing. This is also where I get to understand that I could travel and that I was safe.
Was there ever like a point in like Egypt or Morocco where you initially were scared and then you realized, oh, I don't have to be?
We were on the desert. We were going from the mainland to Sharm el-Sheikh, and we had to go through the desert to go there.
Like the Sahara Desert?
Yes. We travel at night, and we had a big explosion at night. Explosion. And actually, it was the tire that exploded.
Oh, wow.
But it was at night, and with it was very, very dark.
Yeah.
And
You're like, is that a gunshot?
Exactly. It was not that much at the time. We didn't have that much like terrorism, so it was not in my head. But it like the sound was so scary. I don't think that maybe we had 2 or 3 women in the car, in the bus. So I was in the middle of the desert, very dark at night, with all these men around me. And that was scary, very scary.
Yeah.
And but I was safe.
Yeah.
So
like you made it through.
And I made it through. Also, this experience showed me that even if everything seems very dramatic, you're still safe.
So you come back, you get into University of Ottawa. Why did you choose Canada?
My brother was in Canada. He was in Montreal, and I wanted to go to Canada, but with my new independence, I didn't want to go to Montreal close to my brother again. So I wanted to be in Canada, but not in Montreal. And I didn't want to go to Quebec because that was a French speaking location. I wanted to challenge myself and start to learn English. So I decided to go to Ottawa.
Why did you want to learn English?
Because I wanted to be an international traveler. So definitely I needed to have English. And, having the English accent, because I had such a strong French accent, and I still do, but it was way more back then.
And so what was Ottawa like?
It was cool, but it was another level of independence.
Mm-hmm.
This country is so, it's safe. In Canada, you had to study constantly in order to, you get your mark through the year. Really, it was more of the experience, not really about the academy. I don't really remember what I learned there. But I remember that I spent a lot of time, I was involved in a lot of games, like inter-university game. I was doing charity. I was... So I remember more of this than the academic thing.
Well, I mean, I feel like, honestly, for me too, like I studied aerospace engineering and mechanical engineering at UCLA. And like, I don't remember many of my classes, but what I do remember is the people that I met, the parties that I went to, the new experiences that I had with these people. And it's like, I think the community that I created there was really why I was there and what I paid for. It wasn't actually the information that I learned.
Exactly. Definitely. 100% agree.
As you went through college, did any of that passion, that those suspicions of something that you might be interested in after college creep up?
While I was doing commerce, because I was doing commerce at university, like nowadays it's a business school. It was not at the time, but it was still a business study. I started to realize that I was more attractive to creativity than to numbers. So once again, I popped up to my dad and I asked, can I do fashion design? And I wanted to go to Italy at the beginning because fashion design, Italy was very well known for fashion design. And but I was really impressed by the modernity and technology that we had in Canada. So I still wanted to be in this kind of environment. So that's why I realized that we had this fashion design school, Otis College in Santa Monica in Los Angeles. So I went there.
And what about fashion and design felt like something that spoke to you?
I liked the fact that I was doing things with my hand and that I had an idea and I could do something about it right away. I liked this, but I wasn't made for fashion design at all. I remember the first day I went to Otis College, I had a business suit, because that's the way we do in Ottawa. If you go to an interview or whatever first day of school,
it's formal.
Yeah, you have a formal attire, and someone came out of the college dressed like a Batman.
Batman?
Yeah, with a cape, and it felt like Batman, and it was too much for me. It was too far from what I knew. So, and also like people were too crazy.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was the people from Los Angeles or people from
people
fashion.
from LA are crazy. Yeah, I mean, especially like the artist community, they can get a little zany.
So that was maybe a little bit too far from what I knew. I liked it. I really enjoyed the people. I really enjoyed the Los Angeles, Las Vegas, and everything. I really enjoyed this, but that was too far for me. I wanted to have some things a little bit more formal. So I went back to Ottawa to finish my university. But that was the first time that I realized that I was a little bit more creative than
you were a little bit more creative, but didn't necessarily fit the vibe of like the LA fashion scene, which is I mean, I knew some people, I had some friends that were in that scene and they would wear the weirdest stuff and were very weird people. Very cool people.
Very
weird
cool people.
A hard crowd
cool.
to break into. When did you decide that you wanted to check out Paris and New York and all those places?
I graduated from university 2001 and started to work at the stock market of Montreal, but I was doing the recruitment, not human resources.
Is that what you wanted to do?
At the beginning, yes, because I was so in love with people. I love people. That for sure. I knew that, I was crazy about meeting people, talking to people. That's what I loved, but not in a formal way. Then I realized afterwards. But so I started there. Was fun, but the country was too cold for me. When you check out of university, everything looks different. You don't have your vibe, your crowd anymore. You have to wake up every day going to work. Suddenly, everything felt cold. So that's what I decided to do, explore the world. But before I did that, I went back to Martinique. And my father wanted me to start to work with him, but I was not ready.
Did that feel like something big?
No, because I don't think that I was invited. It was just something, I don't think that we had the conversation, come work with me. I think it was just expected. So I wasn't wanted then. So maybe that's why I decided to explore. So I went to Paris and I enrolled in a business school again there to have a different perception of business instead of from the North America. I wanted to have the same school but from Europe. So which I did. I don't again remember academically what it was, but I remember that we had to go to New York during that time.
Do you remember anyone that you met there that maybe like changed how you looked at the world?
Definitely. For the time, two people. The first one was a guy that I met during a party, and he invited me to work for him. So while I was doing university, I started to work with him. So I did that. And it was very, very interesting. And I met a lot of people through this. But again, at university, we had to visit company, a business. And we did this for IFF, the International Fragrance and Flavor. And that was the first time I realized that, I had this idea of perfumery, a perfumer, like old man, very, very dark, like everything that you have in your imagination. And here I am with a bright laboratory everywhere, young people going around, bottles full, like very modern bottles filled with a lot of different scents. And there is this big man asking me, what do you want to smell? And I say tobacco, and he pull out tobacco, chocolate, he pull out chocolate. And there was thousands of scents. That was exceptional. And we had a deep connection with this man. And then I realized that it was the director of EFF. And we connect, and I stay in touch. I sent a message to thank him for the visit and thank him because he was very nice with me, showing me everything around. And I had a lot of questions, answer all my questions. And then I sent a message saying that this is what I want to do. I want to work there. I have plenty of questions. And I asked him if after my degree, maybe I can send him my CV. And if I have a lot of questions, can I contact him? And he invited me to breakfast, to brunch.
So did that meeting and the answers you got to those questions shape your trajectory going into fragrance?
No, but I had a lot of answers more into the corporate life and because my idea was to work, not to be an entrepreneur. My idea was to work, and that seems to be a wonderful place to work.
But did you want to work in fragrance?
I didn't know that I wanted to work in fragrance. I thought I wanted to work in a corporate life in this beautiful company. So, but I think that the most interesting was not the answers, but more the fact that he invited me while I was nothing. I was nobody, and he still took the time, so anything could be possible.
So did you work for International Fragrance and Flavors?
No, never, because I had to go back to Paris to finish the school. And also to finish the school, you needed to have an internship. So I enrolled in marketing company, and it was very interesting. And then it was time to start a new job, because I graduated from this school, and it was time to just get into real life, And I started for 1 week, and I thought it was the place to be. And after 1 week, my father called me and asked me to come and work with him.
What did he say?
Yeah, I remember it was on a Friday, and he told me, I have a lot of problem with my company right now. There was strike. He had a 10 years lease, and then it was about to finish. So everything, like, he was in a bad space. And he just, we got into the phone, and he told me that would be better if I come and work with him.
What did you respond to that?
On the Monday, I was on the flight.
So what was it like getting back on that Monday? Like, what did you start doing? What was
right away? My dad owns a restaurant from airport, and right away when I stepped out of the plane, I started to go because there was a late. I don't know how to say it, but the plane was late and then delay, and we have to serve. So right away I went back behind scene and started to work. And and I didn't know, but my husband, he was not my husband, and I didn't know him at that time, but he was the first client that I served that day. And so I learned how to fight with my dad, work a lot, And, because he was not into administration and I had to step in and do this, which is not my biggest point as well, but I had to fulfill at that time. And I did. And we won again the lease for another 10 years.
Wow.
And for me, that was the end of, my purpose. For my dad, it wasn't, because he wanted to still work with me, but I started to get a little bit bored.
Why? Just the administrative stuff?
Yeah, just because when you have a goal, you achieve the goal, then what's next?
Yeah.
And I don't like restoration, that's not my thing. I like to work with people, but that's not even my team. That's the team my father built. So, I didn't relate anymore. And I met my husband finally.
How?
The parents were a friend of my father, and we just met. Martinique is very small. So we just met. And this is where my fiancé started to introduce me to Bali. So I started to travel to Bali with him.
How did you get introduced to Bali? Did you just go on a trip together?
Yeah. He invited me one day, and I didn't even know. I was working a lot at that time. So I didn't even have the time to take a map and look at the map to know where Bali was. And I didn't even know that Bali was in Asia.
Oh, really?
Was in Asia. No, I'm a bit ashamed of it, but I didn't know. I didn't know. So I took the plane, and I was very tired, slept all the time, all the way. So I didn't even know that it was 12 hours. Wake up, and I was in Bali.
Just teleported there.
Yes.
And what was Bali like? Because this is what, 2006?
It was in 2006. Yeah.
So 2006, I mean, we're in 2023. I imagine Bali has changed a lot since 2006. Or has it?
Yeah, in a way. For example, I remember that if you wanted to go to cinema, there was only one cinema, and it was opening at 4 p.m. and it was at La Galleria. That was the only cinema. Or I remember as well that we didn't have internet everywhere. We had to go to cafe, and that was everywhere. Every little street has a cafe to go and have internet. So internet was not in hotel. We didn't have smartphone. So we had to call. So yeah, it has changed, but the Bali that I know and that I enjoy is still the same. I don't think that has changed so much. I don't have to go to Singapore anymore to entertain myself. Yeah. I have everything here.
Did you feel like when you were there in 2006, did you know immediately that this is a place that you loved?
I didn't fall in love right away with Bali. It was just a place for vacation for me. So we started to come every opportunity that we had, and we eventually get married in Bali in 2000. You got married in Bali? Wow. 2007.
Whereabouts?
And in Blue Point. So, and also to organize the wedding, all my family came to Bali to celebrate. So you get to know people, you get to talk, you get to have your, point of reference, and, you have the same hotel, the same people greeting you. So you get to fall in love with Bali.
We'll get back to the podcast right after this break. It's October, and that means you're probably in the final stretch of your fiscal year. And in this macroeconomic climate, you're also probably thinking about how to best optimize budgets and scale operations in 2023. But you don't want the best probable solution to deal with whatever comes next. You want the best solution, period. Whatever stage your business is in, HubSpot's CRM platform is ready to scale with you at the flip of a metaphorical switch. With totally customizable hubs, HubSpot has thousands of apps that you can easily integrate, use, or get rid of whenever you need them or don't. Plus, transparent costs and an intuitive interface that means there are no fancy frills for us to hide behind. That's because HubSpot isn't here to probably grow your business. It's here to help you grow your business, period. Learn how HubSpot can help your business grow better at HubSpot.com. And now, back to the podcast. And how did it feel exploring this place with your now husband?
One thing that I remember very clearly, there was scents, smells everywhere. And that struck me. Like everywhere where we're going, there was smell of food, smell of incense, smell of flowers, smell all the time. That's what I remember.
When did you decide that you wanted to actually live in Bali?
Bali was not the place I wanted to be. Sanur is. When I went to Sanur, I fell in love directly with Sanur. And every time that I had a pretty hard time at work, I would close my eyes and see me living in Sanur. So that was my happy place, you know? And my husband would say, like, let's move there. Let's move there. And I always told him, you know, like, we live in France. That's a very, very secure and safe place to be. You don't want to live in Indonesia. We don't know Indonesia. You know, that was...
it feels crazy.
Yeah, that looks scary at that time. And in 2009, we had a big strike in 2008. It started 2008. We had a big strike in Martinique, and he lost his job. So it was very scary, and we had to start from scratch, you know. I had a good position because I was with my dad, but at the same time, it was not something that I really enjoyed doing, you know. It was fun for the time that I did it, but I felt like emptiness inside me. So that's when I told my husband, you know what? We are going to Bali.
Wow.
And I took my little daughter because back then I had my daughter. She was 3 weeks, and I came to Bali first to lease the house. And then my husband came after in 2009.
What did it feel like being here? Like, did you feel like you needed to create something immediately? Were you just like letting things sit in?
Yeah, I gave myself 1 year. I have enough to live for 1 year, and I need to do some things in 1 year. So first, what I did was to go to learn the language. So I went to school 4 hours a day, and the rest of the day I would go on motorbike. I learned how to drive a motorbike, and I would go around everywhere, sitting, going around, talking with people because I wanted to practice my Bahasa. One day I had this idea, boom, like this. I was smoking on the terrace, and I had this idea. I wanted to do some things where people get to know Indonesia through scents. That was my idea. Didn't think about perfume making at the time because I was not a perfumer, but I wanted to do some things with scent. And I wanted people to experience in a place what I experienced about Bali without going everywhere. I wanted to have this in Bali. And I thought about Grasse. And I say Grasse is the place where people think about when they think about perfumery. And I want them to think about perfumery. I want them to think about Indonesia. That was the clear vision that I had in my head.
Where do you go? Because you have the idea, and it's like, how does it go from idea to like store to being able to actually have like a location where you're teaching people?
I sent an email. Again.
It all starts with an email.
I sent an email to the same guy. Remember, I asked him, if I have question, can I reach out to you?
From
the same,
IFF.
Yes. And I say, wait, I want to do some things with perfume. Where do I start? From there. He gave me few institutions, and one of the institution was Fifth Sense. And he said, you will be able to go there and learn from scratch anything that you need to know.
Was that in Indonesia?
It is in France, in Paris.
In France, okay.
So I left my daughter with my husband, and I went to Paris, and I started to study there.
Goodness.
So I studied perfumery a few months.
What was it like studying there? Like, were you, because I feel like the pattern so far has been going to school, but just talking to people. When you went to school here, did you like feel completely enthralled with your studies?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. I was like, this is something that I love. This is something that is easy. That was easy for me. And it was like, I knew this. I would study all the time at night and every time. And when I finished school, I would go to perfumery, smell everything. And I was obsessed. The same obsession that I had then, I still have it today. I still wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning, just knowing that I'm going to work on my work, you know?
So you come back from this few month trip to Paris. You have now all the knowledge of perfumery in your head, but it's one thing to have the knowledge in theory and maybe in practice, but it's another thing to actually build a business around it in a country, a foreign country.
The spark of imagination was so clear that I rent a small room, very small, and I created in this room exactly what I had in mind. So
it's like, wasn't like a storefront. It was just like,
it was like a house.
Yeah.
And I had a small room in my house, and I built what I had in mind. I built it in this house, and it was very centimeter by centimeter. I created it very, very, like as if a guest would get in. Also, because I wanted to portray Indonesian flavors and Indonesian scents, I didn't want to give knowledge that I don't own. So I put a bag on my back, a backpack, I think you call it, and I went into Indonesia.
So you started collecting the scents.
Not collecting, but going and talk to people to know like the nutmeg, cinnamon, clove, vetiver, patchouli, and I would learn and I would talk to people and sometimes I couldn't even learn, but I would just sit there with them, looking at them doing things.
And so you're exploring in the same way that you like hope to help other people explore.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. And I did this regularly all the time. And until today, I just went back from a trip to see the pinus trees. Then I started to talk with people who distill, and I went to University of Islam of Yogyakarta and learn about distillation in the way of Indonesia do it, because that's a way to do it in France, but that's another way to do it here. And I was just sat with them, and it was very joyful for me just to be there, not even to talk, but just to be there. And it was like very fulfilling.
So you are experiencing these scents, doing your own exploration. How do you bring that back to your store, and how do you move it out of like your room, this house, or how do you invite people into that space?
I really wanted that every note would really be authentic. So I gather one by one. I didn't say, okay, I want to have a lot of scents. Everyone needs to have a meaning and needs to have a bridge into the perfume. So it's not only getting all the scents, but they need to link to each other.
Right.
So each scent I would go and learn about it and test it again and again and again and again. And the way we do workshop here is very specific. I treat the guest like a guest in a restaurant. For me, I reach for the star Michelin. My staff would laugh at me, but I'm very, very strict on everything need to place. If you look at all the placement, everything has a place, and everything like this needs to be 2 fingers from the border, as if we are in a restaurant in a 5-star.
That's the attention to detail that matters. So how did you develop it from the little home? Or how did you get people to come? How did it turn into the store?
There was an old joglo in a hotel in Sanur, and I offered the owner of the hotel to finish to build the house and to create my workshop there. So this is where I started. So from the beginning, I started to build this house, and that's another passion that I have, is building.
Really?
I have the same passion for building that I have for perfumery. So when I'm not busy with one, I'm busy with the other one, so I never get bored. So I started to build my first store, laboratory, everything's very intense at the beginning, and I did it by myself. And then a little girl, 17 years old, joined me. So I had only one staff for few years at the beginning. And so we opened for 1 or 2 months, And I don't know why, but journalists learn about what I was doing.
A journalist like learned about this perfume store that had just opened up?
I don't know how, but I did a little promotion on a small magazine that doesn't exist anymore. But I think that she saw some things on it. And I had 2 pages on Jakarta Post. So that was like really, really big. And I was like I just started.
And already getting noticed. I mean, that's a good sign.
Yeah, but at the beginning, I was the only one doing this. So it was not difficult. So for the journalists who wanted to have something different, that was not...
It stood out.
Yeah, that was easy for them. I was an easy piece for them. So at the beginning, I had a lot of attention because for 10 years, I was the only one doing this in Indonesia.
And so did people come after the article?
For the first two months, I had few people. And then the director of Ayana wanted to create a sense for Ayana. So he saw the Jakarta Post, called me and asked me if I could come to meet him. So I went there, met him, and I say, I'm sorry, this is not something that I can do now because I don't have a big laboratory. I'm just starting. But what I would like to do is to offer experiences to your guests. And he said, wow, we have a shop which is very, very new. I am going to test your workshop and we will see if we can start to work together. And this is how I started right away in 1 week. Again, 1 week, I closed my shop and I built the shop in Ayana. Then I stayed in Ayana for 11 years.
And so when you said you were doing something in Ayana, was that the Ritz-Carlton inviting you to be there?
In Ayana, in a very small shop, I was doing this with only one girl working every day. And I really wanted to have my shop to open every day.
Yeah.
Every day, never close. We started to have new employees. That was very hard at the beginning because, working with one person at the and started to incorporate all the people. That was difficult at the time, but we succeeded to do it. And then in 2014, I think, Ritz-Carlton, I received a call at 10 or 11 at night of someone saying, are you Nora from L'Atelier? Yes. We want you in our hotel.
So can you kind of tell me about leading up to that? I guess combine those 2 stories, because I mean, you came to Bali with your husband. What was happening in your relationship and how did you balance that with your work?
Of course, that was very hard because, you get married not to fail. And I was so sure when I met my husband and everything led me to this man. So that was a disaster for me to even imagine that I wouldn't be married to him. And of course, he was the father of my daughter. And in my family, there is no divorce.
Really?
So that was very, very hard. But I was sure that was the good decision to do because we were not at the same pace. And
what do you mean at the same pace?
I had big ambition, big goals, and this is something that I wanted to do. I wanted to go further. And for him, it was, I'm happy with what I have, and that's different.
Yeah. So with that kind of separation and all that happening, I mean, you have this really difficult thing in your personal life, and then all of a sudden the Ritz-Carlton calls you. Can you tell me about
Exactly at the
happened?
same time. Exactly at the same time. So they call me late at night and say, we are opening new Ritz-Carlton in Bali and we want to have you in the shop and we want to give you the main shop in the lobby. We want you to be in the lobby. So that was big, that was
Huge
big
news.
because I had such a small place I was loving. And, I didn't think that what I was doing was not worthy, but that was big, that was really big. So I went there, they offered me this big location and it was very exciting because I had to start everything from scratch because the hotel was not built. And so again, I had to build, to build a new shop. So I was very happy about it.
And I think also it's almost poetic. You're kind of building as this chapter of your life is coming to a close. You're starting this new chapter, this new building where there's like a lot of possibility and a lot of opportunity.
Yes. So I was full of hope. I was very sad.
Yeah. I mean, how
Like,
could you
very,
not
very
be?
sad.
How could you not be?
But I was so excited as well, the same as when I went to boarding school. I was very scared, but I was very excited again because I knew that I was doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that it would be better for him, better for me, better for my daughter. So I have no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, but at the same time, everything was flourishing in my business. So it kept me very busy.
Yeah. At the Ritz-Carlton. I mean, that's huge. So
That's huge.
you
Yeah.
set up in the lobby, you're building an incredible place. How did that move and continue?
Word of mouth. We had people traveling from all over the world to come just for the workshop.
Wow.
Many people told me that they were in Ritz-Carlton just to do the workshop. Wow. So that's, when you hear such thing, and not one time, many times, I stay humble because that's a small shop.
Yeah.
But the impact that we have on people, like people who told me that they enroll in EasyCard just because of the workshop that they've done with me. And not one, many. Or people now starting into business because they did my classes. Wow. And I really have this feeling today where I know that I'm at service.
Mm-hmm.
I know that what I do in the small way I do it matters, and it is what I am meant to do.
That's huge. So you expanded to a couple different stores before 2020, right?
Yeah.
Where were things in the beginning of 2020?
So Ayana, Ritz-Carlton, I'd opened in TS Street. I was about to open in Ritz-Carlton in Ubud.
Wow.
We had a lot of demands before the pandemic.
Yeah.
So, and the pandemic hit, and we were the only one.
Yeah. I mean, you had a monopoly. You were, you had multiple locations. You were expanding.
Yeah.
And then, I imagine a place where you're breathing in a bunch of scents without a mask is a little hard to keep open in the pandemic. So what happened when that happened?
For me, I didn't see any way I could survive, like all my business at the time depend on tourism. So the day I met my team to tell them that I would have to close the shop, I look at their eye and I had this vitality. And instead, I just told them that, okay, we are going to fight. And I look at their eyes, and the way they support me during the pandemic was fantastic. It was fantastic. And then the company supported them at the same time. So I didn't release anybody.
That's, huge.
And also we decided to create advanced classes to become perfumer or to get to know how to mix scents together. So I started to create this curriculum again. Even didn't sleep. I was locked into my room and I started to do it. And I was teaching them at the same time. So one curriculum done, going back to studio, teach them, train them. And we were working all day, all the time. And as a team, I was not the only one. And all over Indonesia, people were flying just to do the workshop to become perfumer.
So where are things today? How did things progress after things started opening up again?
Now we are doing very good. We of course, I need to start again to build the team again, because that's a long process. We need to train people. So I cannot enroll many people at the same time because I do the things in the right way. Mm-hmm. So for now, we have one person that just came. So I train them, and then another one will arrive and I will train them. And slowly we will get back to where we were. And I don't think that I want to open a new shop, but who knows? Every time I say the same thing, but who knows? But I have very big ambition for L'Atelier.
Yeah.
And I will keep it for myself for the moment.
Okay. So could you tell me at least maybe a little hint of what you're most excited for in the future?
To be honest, is my spirituality. And by saying that, I do not exclude my business because now everything is linked. My personal life, my business are linked to my spirituality. And every day I wake up grateful for the life that I have, grateful for the job that I do, and for the people that I get to meet. And I think that's the most important things for me.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so if you were to give one piece of advice to someone who maybe is interested in doing what you're doing, but maybe hasn't taken the leap, maybe hasn't started on the path, but is curious, like what advice would you give that person?
Send email. No, I would say that's everything gonna be all right. You know, every little failure that you have are shaping your path, you know, and something that you're afraid of are the biggest step for you. Every time that I took a big step, it was through something that I was very fearful of. And also remain curious. Until today, I have so much to learn and I have so much to do that I wake up every day at 5 a.m. just because I'm so excited to start the day. And until you get to the point where you are obsessed with what you do, keep going because you will get there. At one point, you will get to something that you are obsessed. And I was so frustrating when I was younger because I say, everybody has a passion and I don't. And when it started like one day, you know, and when it is, you have no question. This is what it is. And you have, you know, there is no other way. And yeah, and send emails. You don't be afraid to ask questions. You know, every time that someone asks me a question, I take the time to answer because I know what's behind. I know how they feel. And also it's a new connection. You will always find someone who is into people.
Thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe, rate the podcast 5 stars, and share with a friend. If you have any questions or comments, DM us at Finding Founders Podcast on Instagram, LinkedIn, or Facebook. Finding Founders is produced and hosted by me, Samuel Donner.
Our audio editing team lead is Ashley Jimenez, with support from
Jessica Morales, Miley Lipton,
Siyu Pan,
Kenny Ray,
Josie Yo,
Matt Fernandez,
and Merritt Hill. Our outreach and research team lead is Desiree Nunez, with support from
Marissa Granados,
Monica Lee,
Sarah Tiersma,
and Yao Ro.
To see more of what we're up to, subscribe to our newsletter at findingfounders.co. Thanks again for listening, and see you next week.